It started with a knock on the cabin door, sharp, impatient, the kind that says, "I'm not here for small talk." Senator John Kennedy, dressed in worn jeans and a flannel shirt, had been out on his porch sipping coffee, enjoying the glassy stillness of Lake Harrow. This was his escape from the chaos of politics, a quiet place he'd owned for years, where the mornings were painted with mist and the only noise came from the soft splash of fish breaking the surface. The woman standing at his door introduced herself as Margaret, though everyone in the neighborhood called her Karen behind her back. She wasn't a bad person at her core, but she had a knack for turning small inconveniences into crusades. Today, her mission was John's boat. "It's an eyesore," she said, crossing her arms. "You can't leave it tied up there. The HOA has rules, you know." John blinked at her, taking in her stern expression. "Well," he said slowly, "that boat's been there longer than you've lived here, Margaret." "That doesn't matter," she shot back. "Rules are rules. I'm the president of the Harrow Lake Homeowners Association, and you'll need to move it immediately. We've had complaints from the fishing club, too." Now, John could have laughed. He could have told her right then and there that not only did he have the right to keep his boat exactly where it was, he owned the entire lake, shoreline included. But there was something in her tone, a certain assumption of control, that made him decide to let the conversation run its course. For the next week, the HOA sent him letters. Then came the fines, each one more ridiculous than the last. Kennedy ignored them all, continuing to take his boat out every morning, wave at the fishing club members, and enjoy the water like he had for years. The fishing club, led by a man named Carl, had been friendly with John in the past, but now they barely looked at him, clearly siding with Margaret. Finally, a certified letter arrived, a formal notice threatening legal action if he didn't remove his boat within 10 days. That was when John decided the time had come. At the next HOA meeting, he walked in wearing the same easy smile he wore on the Senate floor, holding a folder under his arm. The room was filled with folding chairs, a coffee urn, and the usual crowd of neighbors. Margaret sat at the head table, shuffling papers like a The room went silent. Margaret's mouth opened, then closed again. Carl from the fishing club looked like someone had just told him the earth was flat. John continued, "Which means your HOA doesn't have jurisdiction over this water. And the fishing club you all enjoy? You've been using my property for years without a formal agreement. I've let it slide because I like seeing folks enjoy the lake. But since there's now tension, I think it's time to change the arrangement." By the end of the meeting, the fishing club's permit had been revoked. Margaret sat frozen, staring at the papers that had just dismantled her authority. Kennedy didn't gloat, he simply gathered his documents, wished everyone a pleasant evening, and left. The next morning, his boat was still tied to the dock, rocking gently on the water. But the fishing club's boats were gone. The lake was quiet again, just the way he liked it. Later that week, Carl knocked on John's door. He wasn't there to argue, he came with an apology. "We shouldn't have sided against you without talking first," he admitted. "The lake's been part of our lives for so long, we just assumed." John nodded. "Assumptions are tricky things, Carl. They can make neighbors into enemies. But I'm not looking for enemies. I just want respect." Eventually, John reinstated the fishing club, but under a new written agreement that required mutual respect and clear communication. Margaret stepped down from the HOA presidency, claiming she needed more time for personal matters. In the end, the story became a quiet legend in the neighborhood, a reminder that power isn't always about titles or loud voices. Sometimes it's about knowing the truth, holding your ground, and using your authority not to humiliate, but to teach a lesson. And for John Kennedy, that lesson was simple: respect is earned, not demanded.